So we're going to have a best of 5 series as part of the Autumn 2018 Second Chance Tournament semifinals. Winner of this will move on to the finals of the tournament versus I Am Turk. We're going to have Conquerer999 seed number, I think he's seed number 7 versus Chusik, seed number 6. It's going to be a German mirror. Chusik's going to be spawning in the north in the color teal, and Conqueror in the south. As you were saying?
Let's be sure. It looks like so. Reds look okay. They both have 3 hunts. They both have 2 mines. So that's quite normal for this map, I think.
Yeah, the resources look fantastic, I think. You've got a hunt in the back or like close to the sea for both players, tucked in the back. On the mines, looking good. All the hunts, I mean, it's fantastic. The map is great. I love this spawn.
And Chusik, right away, he's getting really nice treasures to go market. He's getting 55 coin and 50 wood. So that's really going to help him be able to get out hunting dogs faster than Dictator's going to be able to. Okay, never mind. Dictator's not even going to go market. He's laying down a house first, which is not what you do if you go market.
Having scouted an 85 wood treasure, I think he's going to go with
Oh
trading
yeah.
post as his building of choice.
No, actually, he is going to go market off of that 85 wood treasure. Because there's
Do you
no
think so?
way.
Oh, yeah.
Because look how much wood he'd have to gather to get a TP. I think he'll lay down a market, gather a little bit more gold, and then get hunting dogs. Although Chusik already has hunting dogs, so he's going to be substantially ahead in that respect. And I think we'll probably see that convert into a slightly faster age up.
Absolutely. But still, at this point, kind of mirrored. Even both players having 3 or 4 of the Yats, so still mirrored. Although I think Chusik's about to find an additional
And
2. Wow, that's a very forward market.
I like the market position. What I don't like is that settler wagon just doing so much walking. Because that's probably 20 seconds where that settler wagon is just walking and not gathering resources. So the market position I think is nice, but I think, and we can already see that Dictator is already 100 food. I'm sorry, Conqueror is already 100 food behind Chusik. So I do think that we're going to see, because of the hunting dogs and because of that settler wagon doing so much walking, we are going to see Chusik age up a little bit faster. Although I say that, and now the food's evened out, so maybe Chusik's also. I haven't really been paying as much attention to his base. Maybe he's also had a lot of walking and not a lot of gathering. And they are both going to settler wagons first, which is kind of, you never really see anything different as German. Also,
We're still in the yeah. Do you want to say something?
both their explorers are very low here. And really, with German, you kind of, especially in a German mirror, you really have to go TP in transition. And so if either one of them loses their explorer, that's going to be quite bad. Although it looks like they're both walking away now, and they should both be fine.
So while we're still in the Discovery Age, or rather the transition to Colonial, I'm going to go over the player's history. At least I'll go over Conqueror999 in this match, and then in Game 2, I'll speak a bit more on Chusik. So Conqueror999, of course, he's occupying our number 7 seed. In the past round, he defeated the only boss who I think he was seed number 19 or 20 or so. He did Yakpasa, the number 2 seed. Anyway, Conqueror999, his road to the semifinals, he's defeated Rodro in the round of 64, and then he also defeated Bewinner in the round of 32, Lucas L99 in the round of 16, and then the only boss in the quarterfinals to earn his spot in the semifinals to vie for that number 1 tournament and earn himself a King of the Trash Cans badge. Number 1 treaty player, he also goes by the name of Dictator, the best treaty player to have ever lived. He wins basically every treaty tournament. Every treaty tournament that's been hosted for the past 5 years has been one that Dictator has won. And that's not to say he's not a very respectable player in Supremacy. He's ranked PR35 Colonel, and I think he's sitting at 2450 max ELO, so a force to be reckoned with. In addition, he plays all civilizations, but his main civilizations are Germany and French. And Germany being his first pick on this map here, they're playing a German mirror. This is something that Conqueror is very comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think largely because of his treaty play, he's a very, very strong mechanical player. You know, he has good micro, good unit positioning. Quite good, in fact. I do think that he's maybe, and I think he's definitely better than Chusik in that aspect of the game. I do think, though, his decision making can sometimes be maybe not quite so good, but he definitely can make up for that by just having great mechanics. And already, go ahead.
Fact that Dictator kind of fails in, you know, he plays like a lot of standard build orders, but as far as decision making and strategic options, you know, that's kind of his that's his weak point. And so, you know, he can have supreme micro and better micro than his opponent, but still lose just because, you know, even though he does have a very good understanding of the game and how the late game works, he just doesn't get himself to that point where, you know, going to win because his micro is good. It's the decisions up to that point that is kind of his failing.
Yeah, and we're kind of seeing a mirror so far. Both players have started stable, or I'm sorry, barracks, and both players have killed the other explorer. The big difference though is that Dictator does have steel traps. Well, I do not believe Chusik has steel traps. Yeah, Chusik does not have steel traps. So that is a pretty big deal. And we are seeing five doppelsounders coming forward from Chusik. And I do think that these are definitely going to take down the market. And I'd like to see Conqueror making some crossbowmen to try to counter that. And then he is going to lose a Vil there. Chusik will.
Conqueror does have a barracks of his own, so whether he wants to pump that into Doppelsodners or Expomen, up to him, but he's definitely going to get punished for that forward market he placed earlier. Those Doppelsodners from Chusik coming out much, much, much sooner than any units from Conqueror, and I really like that. You know, he recognized that market was in a very exposed position and probably kind of expedited that Doppelsodner batch, and that's actually, you know, of course, Conqueror already having gotten all the upgrades he needs, steel traps and the placer mines. Even still, you know, a thing that Germany does very commonly is they don't gather wood. They just gather coin and then trade that off for wood at the market in order to build a house. And having the market go down, that's going to limit or restrict Conqueror's options in doing something like that. And we're actually not going to see him build any more units in Age 2. You know, the only units he had on the field were the ones from the 2 Yulins that came from his shipments. Instead, he just went for a straight fast fortress, not even using the 700 coin shipment, just 3 settler wagons and 700 wood.
Yeah, he basically that's kind of the greedy build order, and I think it's probably going to pay off because Chusik is not going to be able to deal with a skirm shipment right now. Although we can see Chusik is now macroing to Age himself, having shipped coin, and you know, having basically the food to Age. And Dictator did call Minutemen to try to save that house, and while they did save that house, he didn't get a single volley off on the Doppelsounders. So it was kind of a wasted Minutemen, honestly.
It did save the 100 wood, but of course it's going to be hard to get value with those Minutemen later. He's going to have to take very good care in order to get value with them. Otherwise, it's kind of just 150 wood, 150 food and 150 coin spent to just save like maybe 100 wood. Yeah.
And
but, still no market. Okay, we do see the market.
He did rebuild his market.
As you're saying?
Getting down to TP is a relatively big deal because it just means that Conqueror's shipment progression is just not going to be quite as quick as it would be with that TP. And I think he's realized that it's going to be a minute before Chusik is going to be able to get out any Age 3 units, and he's going to try to take advantage of this small timing window that he has to push with a superior skirm mass. And Chusik does not have a shipment yet. He is very, very close, only 11 XP away from sending a shipment. So he is sending one now, which I assume will be the skirms. But he is gonna be behind in skirm count for the foreseeable future. So it'll be interesting to see if Dictator can take advantage of that.
as well. He's housed right now. He has the wood in order to lay down the foundation so he can queue up some more units, but his barracks is in an exposed location. Conqueror doesn't have any high siege units, but they will get the barracks down nonetheless unless Chusik is able to make a move, which, you know, considering he doesn't have any ranged units out on the field right now, he's not going to be able to do. I think he's just waiting for this timing where that 8 skirmishers is going to come in, then he's going to pop out. We see 5 skirmishers from the barracks, but they're going to get picked off so quick.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him going forward now with his dops and with his yeah, because now his unit pop, but his dops and his cav are kind of out of position, so he's not really able to take advantage of that momentum swing. And if we look, Chusik has a lot of Ulan. And the only anti-cav that Dictator has are 3 war wagons. Although he does have 3 more war wagons coming in from the back, but these doppels are now connecting on the Ulans, and they're just going to make very, very short work of the Ulans. And Chusik is now ahead in the skirm count. So it's just going to be... And he's snaring with the dops, and Dictator, I think, just needs to go back with the... Maybe just sack the skirms and go back with his war wagons. Because he's just not... Yeah, and that's what he's doing. He's realized that those skirms are kind of dead. He's trying to get maybe 1 more volley off on the dops, and outside of that, he just needs to wait for reinforcing skirms. And that fight went very, very well for Chusik.
Yeah, that was very well played by Chusik. You know, even having some of those Ewans left over after all of Conqueror's Ewans had been killed, and was able to snare those skirmishers, and then after those 2 Ewans died, he was still able to snare them with the Doppelsoldner. So that was very well played, that engagement going very much in his favor and swinging it back.
And this right here is, I think, a strategical error from Dictator. I don't think 9 H2 Ulans are really going to swing the course of the game, especially when Chusik already has Doppelsounders out on the field. Because first of all, he doesn't have the resources to be able to upgrade these Ulans, and, you know, EP Ulans are just a little bit underwhelming. Although actually, right as I say, he's not going to have the res to upgrade them, he starts upgrading them. So maybe it was a fine decision after all.
He does have a lot of his villagers on wood now. I think he's switching them off, going to go to the more exposed resources on the locations around out on the map. He does still have some a nice amount of food in his base, but those 4,000 coin from the 2 silver mines has been dried up, and now he has to go out if he wants to continue gathering gold.
And he did ship 1,000 coin, which I like that. I think that's a good shipment. He's neither pushing nor being pushed, so he can just sink that gold into res. Ooh, and it looks like he's probably gonna get a settler wagon there. No, never mind. Chusik was on top of it. So both players lost a single Ulan, and outside of that engagement went pretty clean. Although Dictator did get a war wagon picked off by the skirms, and another war wagon's low, and he's also losing his skirms. Although these Chusik having his settler wagons that far forward, it is nice. They do tank a lot of damage, but I don't think he really needs them up there to tank.
You know, with Dictator's superior Ulan mass, I think what he's waiting for here is just the 7 skirmisher shipment, so he can get back up on his skirmisher mass. And with that, I think he's in a good position to push out. As long as he has enough skirmishers to one-shot one of these war wagons, he can do very nicely in this engagement with so much Ulans. That can definitely just swing that skirmisher disadvantage that he has, that skirmisher count disadvantage he has, back in his favor.
And I think it's also worth noticing, Chusik has not scouted this mine, so he does not know that mine exists, which I think is one reason why he's moved all the way forward to that gold mine. And for right now it's okay, but when this gold mine runs out, not having realized that mine is in the back potentially could end up costing him the game. Because as of right now, Dictator sent 1,000 gold, and although never mind, that's less important than this. He's killing a lot of vills, but the Ulans have now connected. Dictator's Ulans have now connected with the skirms, and he's not really positioned properly. Although now that Chusik's kind of backed up into this TP, he does have much better positioning, and the Ulan are now just kind of suiciding themselves onto the war wagons, And this fight is ending up, I think, going very, very heavily in Chusik's favor, even though he has a 9 Ulan shipment that's idle on his TC. If he had that 9 Ulan shipment right now, I think honestly the game would be over. But idling that 9 Ulan shipment there is just huge, because the fight's even without it. Okay, and it looks like he just now has noticed it.
But if Chusik chooses to re-engage, he knows where Conqueror999 is gathering. You know, Conqueror just being very stubborn and bringing his villagers back to that, even though he knows it's an exposed location. You know, he just doesn't have as many units as Chusik has out on the map, especially with these 9 Yulins on the way.
Yeah, although Jaeger's coming out, and I was wondering why Dictator's score was so much lower than Chusik's was, and Jaeger's definitely answers that. And I think it's going to be difficult for Chusik to deal with the Jaegers. It just takes so many skirms to be able to do anything versus them. Although that being said, he now has 17 Ulan out. And Dictator's only anti-cav is 3 War Wagons, 2 of which are already low HP. So I think that honestly, this is probably going to be a GG, because I don't see Dictator ever being able to clean up these Ulans. He's down to 1 War Wagon.
War Wagons in queue for Dictator, but they're still in queue, and the stable is so far away, and this is the engagement, and there it is, GG. Just out on the map at the wrong time, choosing to engage too early, and Chusik was able to finish him off with the 9 Yulin, 8 Yulin shipments. Game 1 to Chusik. He's taking the lead in this best of 5 series.
Yeah, and I think we just saw Dictator's unit composition was just, since he was already skirm heavy, I think Black Riders would have been a better shipment in this particular situation than Jaegers, because it would have protected his skirms from those 17 Ulans, and since he does have nice micro, I think he would have been able to make quick work of them.
Conqueror had already seen the 8 skirmisher and 3 War Wagon shipment come out for Chusik, so he should have been able to tell that, you know, likely the next shipments from Chusik were going to be that 9 Yulin, that 8 Yulin, if they weren't, you know, mercenaries of his own. Would have been a better call, you know, and just producing more skirmishers, having the Black Riders out, that would have...
Yeah, I think it would have, the fight would have been a lot evener. Because they still had similar skirm masses, and the Black Riders would have directly countered those Ulans. Although I think Chusik did have a bigger mass, so it may not have mattered, but it certainly would have been closer. And I think I did see Chusik playing over the past few days. I've seen him several times in lobbies with Snow, who won the regular tournament. So I think he's been practicing for this series, and I think that practice definitely paid off in the first game.
Absolutely. You know what? I was actually going to compare him to Snow and say he might even be as good as Snow in the main tournament, just as a cheeky. I couldn't find a funny way to say it, because it is the Trash Can tournament, but he played really well here.
He's the Second Chance tournament.
Yeah, and that's actually going to take down one of Conqueror's main civilizations. Having lost with Germany, he won't be able to play it again until Game 4.
And Kickass has taken your spot, so I believe he's going to be joining me for the casting the remaining games.
Oh, no worries. I'll just hop out here, and Kickass will join you shortly.
Yeah, it's there'll be 10 seconds command lag, but it'll be okay.
I think Kickass will probably bounce once he realizes he can't send 3 Haas as a caster.
Yeah, there's no yeah, that's not an option. Okay, and it looks like Chusik has decided to play Brits, and we keep on. Oh, and Dictator just immediately going India, and I think that's definitely a good matchup on this map for India. I mean, most matchups are good matchups for India, but I think that this one is particularly good.
That snap pick, I think a lot of players might anticipate that, you know, Conquer has a planned strategy here. You know, me just, you know, having known Dictator for so long, I think, you know, he doesn't necessarily have like a certain build order planned out specifically for this matchup on this map. I think rather he knows that India is a favorable civilization against British, and he doesn't care to think about it much longer, and he's just going to dive
Yeah.
deep in it.
And I
And
do
that kind
think,
of also plays into his strategical thinking. Although, this is a favorable matchup for India, so there's a.
besides French, I think India is kind of his, India, German, and French, I think, are his kind of three civs that he's most comfortable with. And I think India on this map is certainly a better pick than French. So.
Right. This will be game 2 in a best-of-5 series between Conquer999 and Chusik as part of the Second Chance Tournament Autumn 2018 tournament. Already said that twice. Semi-finals is what it is. The winner of this match is going to move on to play against I'm Turk in the Trash Can Tournament Finals. We do see Chusik leading the series 1-0 so far. He won the first game on Manchuria, and British was his locked civilization spawning in on the south of the map. He's going to be playing in the color teal. On the other hand, we have Conquer999 playing as India, the counter civilization. He's going to be in the color blue.
And then, the hunts look okay. Once again, I think that this hunt is this hunt, and it is a little bit further away for Chusik. But again, it is there. Chusik does have, I don't know, his hunts are a little bit far.
The way this matchup usually plays out is Conquer999 is the aggressor. I think Chusik has enough safe hunts. He has that one big Guanaco hunt, and then he has 2 herdable Rhea hunts. After that, it's a little bit more difficult, depending on where he chooses to extend out on the map. And on the other hand, his hunts are just incredible. They're like very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Like, no way that Chusik would really be able to pressure him. Not that British are necessarily the very aggressive civilization in this matchup, but even when it just comes to raiding, really defensible for Conquer999, that is. Yeah, and I think with Chusik having to take a pause here, do you want to also let the players know about the imbalance in the hunts? Also, I should ask you, do you want to maybe recall this?
You're the tourney admin. It's your call. I think that it's close. I do think. I'm gonna. Oh, I can't turn off fog of war while it's paused.
Are you ready? Yes.
And I think it's close. I think that you can. I think that you could go either way, honestly. So you're the big boss man, I think.
So I do think there are enough defensible hunts for Chusik. Of course, he has the Guanaco hunt. That's big. Then he has 2 herdable Reyes. It's just after that, it's a little bit more difficult for him to push out. Of course, he has the berries, and he has this Guanaco hunt over here, which is comparable to the Guanaco hunts over here for Conquer.
Yeah, well then where...
I guess this is the one that's comparable to that.
Okay. So yeah, they're further away, but they're still there.
Yeah. It's just really hard. I do think all the hunts spawned in place.
The thing is if you look at Dictator's hunts, you can easily see both those Guanaco hunts in the same screen as the TC. Well, if you look at Chusik's hunts, neither of them are in the same screen as the TC. I think we should rehost, honestly.
Okay, let's let the players know. I'll let them know.
Because I think if it was just one further away, play it. But since both of his other significant big hunts are further away, I think that we should rehost. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure that there'll be somebody in the chat complaining about it. Oh, this is a perfect spawn. This is exactly how it's supposed to spawn. Blah blah blah. But when you look at it, and one player's hunts are twice as far away as the other player's hunts, I think it's better safe than sorry.
For sure. I was gonna say something more on this point, but I think we'll just hop into game 2, or the next the next map.
Yeah.
Next spawn of Gran Chaco.
I'm gonna just do a little explanation to them.
Yeah, both players being good sports. But anyway, this will be game 2 in a best-of-5 series as part of the Artem 2018 Second Chance Tournament. This is the semi-final stage. Winner of this match between Conquerer999 and Chusik will move on to the finals against I Am Turk for the opportunity to vie for that King of the Trash Cans badge, which will be awarded to the winner on the forums. We're going to have Chusik playing as the British in the south of the map. He's playing British, of course. His locked civilization dictator got the opportunity to counterpick, and his counterpick will be India in the color red.
And I think is yeah, okay. I think the hunts are better than last time. I think that this hunt for dictator did spawn farther away, but I think that because of the nature of the matchup, it'll be fine. This hunt did spawn just as close as Chusik's did, so since it was only one that spawned further away and he's likely to be the aggressor, I think that it's going to be just fine.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, basically having the Guanaco hunts, which are bigger than the Rhea hunts, having that close to his TC and hurtable in is just, it's completely fine. There's plenty of hunts for both players.
Yeah, I think the Guanaco hunts are the bigger deal because they're like 3 times as much food as the bird hunts.
Before we go too deep into the Age 1 discussion, we do see llamas for Conquer. Oh, 8 llamas! Actually, every single llama on the map has gone to Conquer.
Yep, and that's what I was gonna say that last game before before we got into the rehost discussion. But the exact same thing happened last game. He had every single llama on the map within like a minute of the game. So I think that he's done his I think that he's maybe done his research on this map. And knows about where the llamas spawn, because one game, if it happened one game, maybe it's luck. 2 games in a row, I think he has done his research.
I mean, finding all those llamas as India, it's basically like a 300 wood treasure in that it gets him a trade post and a half. To that, I'm not sure.
It's not quite that much. It's a TP if he built the pen thing for them. But it still is quite good. I think each one does 5 XP per like 30 seconds or something like that. So maybe it is close to a TP.
Either way, it's an insane advantage, and he earned it. He found those llamas first. He knew exactly where they would be, and he contended them sooner than Chusik did. Chusik did pick up a native scout of his own, but just too little, too late. That's not going to help him get any of the llamas out on the map.
And this right there, that is also quite a nice treasure.
Another nice treasure for Conquer999 is going to streamline his Age 2 market upgrades against British, or maybe it gets him out some more Gurkhas or Sepoys. Whatever his first batch is going to be, it's just going to streamline. He'll be able to keep more villagers on food and wood, which are the resources he needs to build infrastructure and market upgrades. It's just big. Yeah, big.
And we are, as expected, we're seeing going to see a forward aggro out of Conqueror. He is. I'm not sure why he's not laying it down. He's had 800. Oh, I know why, because he got too close to Chusik's TC and wasn't able to lay it. But that delayed him from aging by about 10 or 15 seconds. Probably not going to make a big deal, but it is still something. And Chusik is already hurting this, and I'd like to point out that last game this hunt spawned like up here, and was not at all hurtable to his TC. While this current spawn, it is, he may not be able to get it directly on his TC, but he should be able to gather from it relatively safely.
Certainly, and I think that's a good case for the rehost. This being, just a much more fair position for that hunt to beat. Of course, it's not perfect. It's still, there's the potential that it's hard to defend, and Conqueror is able to punish it. But if we were to have gone on and played on the last map, that would have never been an option for Chusik.
No.
Chusik not taking great care of hurting that
Yeah,
hunt,
it's
so
it's
it's
walking
gonna look
away,
like
so it might end up not being too different. Because yeah, he hasn't. I've been watching it. He hasn't hurted it in about a minute, and it
the end.
is randomly walking in the wrong direction. But that's
The
on
end.
him. That's not on us. So
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, if this is in an indefensible position, it's on him. He had the opportunity for it, and he kind of squandered it a little bit. But I don't think we should harp on it too much because he does have plenty and plenty of
yeah,
food in his
he
base right now.
does. He does have. He's got food to last till probably at least 10 minutes. Not even counting. Wait. Where? Oh, his berries were. The way that I was looking at his berries were covered by the trees. So for a second there, I didn't think he had berries. But no, he does have berries. And yeah, Dictator is aging a little bit later than India would normally like, but we do see he has 2 shipments directly as a result of having those llamas. So that's going to speed up his build by a lot. And he does have Sepoys queued up, and he is shipping 5 Sepoys. So he's going to be doing the classic 12 Sepoy push, which honestly, I don't think is going to get much done because Chusik will have 10 Musketeers out by then. And with the TC fire and the outpost fire, and given the fact that the TC can now 2-shot EP Sepoys, yeah, like I said, I don't think that he's going to get much done with these.
Yeah, certainly. With the outpost, TC Fire, and 10 Musketeers out for Chusik now, he's in a perfectly fine position with which to hold a Sepoy rush coming from Conqueror. So while we may see Conqueror kind of try to prod in, maybe he'll realize this isn't really the right opportunity or the right angle from which I want to engage, and then he'll kind of just continue to contain and sort of prod Chusik without truly engaging, and maybe go for a more economic, some more economic shipments to kind of bolster his back end.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see the big wood trickle. And Dictator really Conqueror should not be pushing in here. Yeah, he just lost Sepoy for free. And yeah, foreign logging coming in. I think that was the correct decision. And he's now getting, he's queuing up Imperial Bureaucracy. So even though he did ship these Sepoys first, getting Imperial Bureaucracy at 6 minutes and 45 seconds is still quite nice for him. So he'll definitely, even though Chusik, oh, actually, recalculated economic population is actually just about even. So that's quite nice for Conqueror right now.
Yeah, certainly. And I hope he continues to mass up because if he's not too careful, Chusik might even be able to push out soon here. There's the second barracks coming out, and he does have basically twice the Musketeer mass that Conqueror does.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen units pop for him. So he's adding a consulate. So 300 export is going to be the next shipment that we're going to see pop out, and then I assume he's going to go auto consulate. And yeah, Chusik's getting to the point where if Dictator doesn't make more units, if Chusik did decide to push out, he'd be able to break the aggro easily. However, we are going to see Chusik aging. And I don't think there's going to be anything that Dictator's going to be able to do about this age up that we're about to see from Chusik. And India, the one thing that they struggle with is dealing with 2 cannons. So it's going to be interesting to see Dictator's reaction from that. And Chusik is going to be losing a Vil here. Not that big of a deal, but still is a Vil.
I wonder what the goal of that villager was. Maybe he was trying to build like a proxy artillery foundry.
That was the villager that was down here. And then Conqueror scouted it with his with Mr. Please Stun Please and Please Stun, and then Chusik tried to run it up to this hunt. And then Conqueror just followed it with his explorers and has now killed it.
A big consequence of of that villager getting taken down is that, Conqueror had sent his entire mass of Sepoys to go kill that. That's wasting so much time, and in the back of it, Chusik's just aging up.
Yep.
Going to age 3, he's got plenty of Musketeers out on the field. He's going to be chopping a little bit more wood, going to be able to get that veteran upgrade
And
for the
I'm
musketeers as soon as he's aged up.
I'm worried that based off of Dictator's macro, he's going to be shipping 700 gold or 600 gold and aging himself. And I'm afraid that if he does that, I don't think that he's not going to be able to defend his aggro from 2 cannons. Although that being said, I don't know if he would be able to defend his aggro from 2 cannons if he just poured those units poured those resources into units anyway. So it's probably the correct decision.
I do think, that aggro is, at some point it's going to be doomed. But I think aging up himself is actually a good decision here. I don't really see, India's composition being able to break a veteran musketeer and 2 falconets from British, especially with, Chusik being age 3, having gone up safely. It just lists at that point.
I'm not sure how the timing is going to work out. But yeah, like you were saying, I don't think that there's going to be any way for him to defend this aggro because Chusik instantly sending a unit shipment. It's going to be 2 cannons. He's about to queue up veteran musketeers, and then I think the 2 cannons is going to signal go time for him. And I'm just not sure how Dictator, because really the only surefire way that India has of dealing with 2 cannons is siege elephants. There is the classic just mass sepoys and walk the sepoys onto the cannons and right-click them. But he doesn't have anywhere near the massive sepoys to be able to do that. So he's probably going to have to ship the cannon elephants.
I think that's what he will do, but I would not underestimate. I would not underestimate Conqueror's ability to defend as India here. In the previous series, in the quarterfinals, we saw Conqueror play India against the only bosses. I forget what civilization the only boss was, but he played India on High Plains, and it was a case where the only boss went up to Fortress first, pushed out, but Conqueror playing India, he was able to age up as well very safely, and then just translate it into a very momentous win in his favor. So, despite losing the aggro fort here, just getting melted down by these musketeers and the falconets, the push is impending for Chusik. Conqueror just hitting up. I wouldn't count him out, though.
Yeah, I definitely am not. I am, like I said, I am worried, though. It looks like Chusik's going straight to the TC. If he does not send siege elephants, which I really think he has to send siege elephants here. I don't know how else he's going to be able to deal with the falconets.
Basically, the only other option would be to, for Chusik to make a mistake, get his units too close to the TC, 7 Yurumi pop out the back, and for some reason, Chusik deletes his falcon.
And there's Minutemen. Oh, and yeah, there's the 2 siege elephants. So yeah, there's 1 cannon down. They'll get the other cannon down. I think Chusik's gonna have to go back. Now the only disadvantage of siege elephants is that now they don't really do too much. And I think Chusik needs to get out of there. I think he might be overstaying his welcome a little bit. And even though he is getting some bill kills, Chusik never shipped 5 bills. So Conqueror is up in economy by 6 villagers. And I do think that you were correct in your assessment, and I do think that he is in the superior position now.
Whoa, where did those big raids come from? Well, Conquerer999 has lost a lot of villagers of his own, and Chusik's doing a really nice job of.
There's that right there. It's interesting, there are no more Sepoi left, and there are 5, granted, only H2 Hussars coming in. And Dictator sending East India Company. That, I don't know about that, because he sent East India Company after all of his units are basically dead. So I don't think that was, I think it's a good long-term card, but I'm not sure how good it was in this position.
Conqueror is going to have to be very careful with how he distributes his units around the map in order to hold Chusik's pressure. We can still see those 5 Hussars basically took down maybe 6 or 7 Gurkhas, so they didn't actually get too cost-effective of a trade. I guess they also killed 2 Sepoys. But yeah, Conqueror being able to repel the impending 8 musketeer raid that was coming from Chusik, both on the left side and both on the right side, not without losing a bunch of villagers first. And we see 8 villager shipment coming out for Chusik as well.
Yeah, and so he is up in eco now. Although I think at this point the Indian units are just a little bit better than the British units, and since the British doesn't really have that big of an economic lead, I do think that he's going to struggle to deal with this India push, especially since he's only going musketeers, which obviously are going to get, excuse me, countered by those Gurkhas. So honestly, I would not be surprised if we just see Dictator kind of steamroll this fight. But we'll see what Chusik has up his sleeve.
Yeah, it's also of note that Conqueror still has the ceasefire ability at his disposal. So even if he finds himself in a position where he's outmaneuvered, he can activate that ceasefire ability and just reposition himself in a favorable spot.
Yeah. And a thousand wood out from Chusik. I'm not really sure what that is going to be used for. Because he's not making, maybe he's going to add longbowmen. Because he's not really making any wood units. And this is not the time to be adding a second cannon. And he can't really, adding cannons really isn't an option either. Because of those siege elephants. So I wonder if we will see some longbowmen soon.
Yeah, those 5 hustlers not doing too much. They killed 2 or 3 Sepoys, but after that they just got gunned down. And now that Conqueror has the superior mass of both Sepoys and Gurkhas against just these veteran musketeers from Chusik as well, British East India Company being the upgrade from the home city. You know, these carded Indian units are just vastly powerful. Now even picking off a few villagers, and that's going to be game.
And there, I think it was quite a nice build from Dictator, being willing to just kind of sack the aggro fort in the middle to buy time. And I think Chusik was just a little bit, I'm not really sure what he could have done different there, because I think that he did play that, he played that pretty well. He had a solid build, but I think it was his push was just a little bit late. But like I said, I'm not really sure what he could have done to speed it up.
Don't even think that like Chusik's build was too late. I think his build order was good, although maybe he should have tried to invest in hussars a little bit earlier rather than going for like the 44, the 40 or 45 musk push. I think both players played really well, and there you kind of saw just India kind of being a little bit more favorable in this matchup, playing defense, or rather, you know, it's this very niche situation that Conqueror, I feel, is very, very comfortable in. It's that situation where a European civilization gets to the fortress age first, Conqueror999 follows it up, and while the European civilization is pushing into his base, Conqueror stabilizes it and is able to hold the European aggression, push it back, and seal up the match from that point.
Yeah, because I think
he was able to tie up the series 1-1, and we're going to move on to Game 3. It'll be on Hudson Bay, I believe.
Yeah,
but some closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think that he aged faster than I thought, and Chusik didn't quite push out as fast as I thought, and so really he had, like we saw, he had no trouble dealing with that that Falconet push. And then after that, you know, India's better units and strong eco just kind of carry them to the game, or to the win. And the players have, for this third game, they have both locked in into a Dutch mirror. So this is going to be interesting. Chusik having won the first mirror, and then Dictator or Conqueror taking the last game. The Dutch mirror is, I think, quite interesting in how the different ways that it can play out. So we'll see if anybody. I don't think either of these players are big water players, so I don't think either of them are going to go for the water. So we might just see, you know, your kind of standard 5 bank, 4 bank, semi-FF, or maybe one of them will try to pull out some cheese. We'll see.
So this will be Chusik's counter pick. Conqueror999 locked in Dutch first, and this is Chusik's time to kind of get himself or leverage an advantage, and he's going to choose a Dutch mirror, feeling he's probably a bit more better suited to that matchup. to see. I know Conqueror999 is certainly no schlutz.
Yeah, and I think that he's good with Dutch. He's comfortable with Dutch, um, but I do think he's not maybe quite as good with Dutch as he might be with German, India, or French. Although I guess we'll see here coming up in this game.
Right. Oh, not quite. Not
Nope.
quite locking
Right
into
as you
game
readied up,
here.
he unreadied. So I wonder if he's just taking an extra minute to think about it, or if he just like had to like grab a drink of water or something like that.
Yeah, I figure he was probably just taking a sip. But yeah, this will be game 3 in a best of 5 series as part of the Autumn 2018 Second Chance Tournament semifinals. Winner of this match moving on to face I'm Turk in the finals. The series is currently tied up. Conqueror999 was forced to lock his civilization first, chose the Dutch, and Chusik followed it up himself, his counterpick civilization being the Dutch. We're going to see Conqueror999 on the west side in the red color, and Chusik uh, side in teal.
And I do think that resources look fine. Um, although I think they both have 3 mines, and then after that, I think this mine for Chusik, there's not really that mine for Dictator, um, but it is like the 4th or the 5th mine, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But
I think, considering the first 3 mines are in perfect position and the hunts are as well great, this 4th hunt being a little bit more defensible, it's kind of excusable. There's still this 4th mine for both players.
yeah,
That it's not too bad, and it's not really worth a rehost.
yeah, I think the chances of that negatively affecting the game are quite low. So, and I do wonder that Ville treasure, which once again I think honestly shouldn't exist, but it does, and Chusik has scouted it, and I don't think Dictator scouted it. He's going for that tomahawk. So I do wonder if Chusik is going to go and try to take that villager. It is risky to go for it, because being guarded by 5 animals, it takes a while to get. So if the other player scouted it, they can come and contest it. But like I said, I don't believe Dictator's actually scouted it yet. So, and I guess Chusik is going for the safer 80 food treasure instead.
Yeah, the tomahawk might kind of lend itself towards keeping Chusik in his base. Should he have been a more aggressive civilization, it might have prevented an aggressive build order, just because that tomahawk does such a good job of harassing forward-facing villagers. But in a Dutch mirror, I'm kind of hard pressed to say, what does that tomahawk really do? It'll help Conqueror win or a battle, but when are we going to see that? Is that going to be at the 2-minute mark? No, because it's already the 2-minute mark and the explorers are far away. Is it going to be at the 3-minute mark, the 4-minute mark? Is it ever going to happen? And even if it does, is it that big of a deal? Probably not.
I tend to agree with you on that. That this is one of the matchups where the tomahawk doesn't do quite as much. Although if he's paying attention, he can get some damage off. And because Chusik did get a few coin treasures, he did elect to age with 14 vills. Even though he did gather the gold for a 15th vill, he unqueued it and is just aging with 14 vills instead. Which I think at this position, since he had the gold for another vill and just decided to age because he had the res for it, I think it's an okay decision. But ultimately, it's not going to make that big of a difference because he's probably going to end up getting his bank up at the same time as Conqueror will, and he's probably not going to end up getting his shipment that much earlier. So
it could be the case where that second bank is going to come up faster because the 400 wood is going to be on the floor sooner for Chusik. He's going to need to have a lot of food in base to really make use of that. That's kind of the only benefit in this Dutch mirror you get from aging earlier. Besides that, of course, the first bank, it's not going to be coming out any sooner for Chusik, so like aging sooner and byproduct not having that additional villager gathering while in transition, it's not that big, but as well, it's just not a big of a deal either way. It's only a few resources, so it's basically like...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
basically just like 140 or 60 coin treasure.
Yeah. Because, yeah, Chusik just now laying down his bank foundation. Dictator just now laying down his bank foundation. And because this bank is not up, Chusik does not have a shipment. So he's not really even going to be getting his shipment much earlier than Dictator will be. Actually, so yeah, he's just now sending his shipment, and Dictator just now sending his shipment. So yeah, really it did not make that big of a deal. That big of a difference, I'm sorry. I think really it's, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other in terms of which is better. One thing to point out though is Chusik only has 2 bills on coin, and that tells me that he's going to be shipping 700 wood first, and going greedy. And yeah,
We already see the second bank coming up for Chusik, but like you were saying,
that I guess that was just the bill that he got from the treasure. And yeah, Chusik going 700. They're both going 700 wood first. Although Dictator he just now laid down his second bank. So you're correct in that the second bank does go up faster because of that cut bill. And
so I'd expect to see 600 wood as the next shipment from both players, and then 1,000 wood in the Fortress Age. I don't think either player is really caring to put on some aggression. Early on, we see the third bank in a market. No military production facilities for either player.
Yeah, I really like adding in the market as early as you can for Dutch. I think it's just quite nice. And I do think that now after that first bank, every bank for Chusik after the first bank has been faster. So I do think that earlier age up definitely is coming into play. And yeah, he's going a bank wagon. Unfortunately, he's 100 wood short of being able to build that last bank. Okay, so never mind. He just market traded gold for coin to build the last bank. So yeah, he now does have 5 banks going. He will have 5 banks up. Well, Dictator is laying down a stable. Oh, I'm not sure how I feel about that, because on one hand, it's going to be nice to be able to idle Chusik, but on the other hand, if Chusik is already aging or close to aging by the time those husks come out, then they're just going to be kind of useless.
You also have to consider by building that 5th bank, Chusik actually gets, I'm not sure how much experience points it is. Let me just check. I think it's 140 build XP.
Yep.
It's 20 build experience, and then he's going to build 5 hussars, which I think grants 100 experience points. Am I?
Yeah, because it's 20.
Right?
Yeah, that is correct. It's 20 XP for the hussars, and then 20 for the stable. So
yes,
he does get a little bit less XP.
That XP sooner, so he's able to send that 600 wood sooner and then translate that into infrastructure sooner. So just Chusik's build order, it's going to grant him more resources. He's going to be up sooner, and he's going to be able to put his infrastructure at I should say, and basically not having that stable. It's just going to come out in a safe time. Yeah.
Those husks just popped, and the problem is that Chusik's basically aging already. So I really don't think that Conquerer999 is going to be able to get much done with those hussars. Just because Chusik's going to have, although he may deny this barracks, and he would definitely deny that Rax, and Chusik is going to lose a bill. He's going to lose 2 bills.
Even lose the second here.
And so I say that these aren't going to pay off. I think actually these hussars have paid off, because they've killed 2 bills. They've denied that stable. It looks like a third bill will go down here. So that was big. And behind that, Conqueror is getting down his. He did get down his last bank, and is macroing to age. And there are 5 more hussars coming out. So he's probably just going to stand on top of Chusik's TC until Chusik gets Reuters out. And that's just going to be so much idle time.
Not only that, but taking down the barracks when it was almost completed, that's like 170 wood that lost there.
Although it's not down. Okay, well, now it's down, yeah.
So Chusik losing the Minutemen for basically nothing.
Yep,
That's
and
150 food, 150 coin.
Dictator is aging. And he knows the timings. He knows that Reuters are about to pop. So he's going to go ahead and say his goodbyes to Chusik's TC. Or wait,
I think I
actually,
prefer. I'd really like to see 1,000 wood come out from Chusik here instead of 9 Reuters. Ooh. You know, Conqueror999, he has 6 Hussars left. He's not going to push into Chusik's base knowing that Chusik has the stable. 5 Reuters alone would have been enough to just keep those
yeah.
Hussars out of his base. So the 9 Reuter shipment, well, you know, it's going to help him harass in early age 3, and that's a good thing. I would have liked to have seen 1,000 wood to, you know, a structure around the map.
Yep, go for housing, another stable maybe, another racks maybe. I mean, it's
Some
just,
more market upgrades.
I do think that Conqueror999 is in a solid position now. Because even though he was behind in aging and there are Reuters in his base, the idle time that he caused Chusik, I think, is going to be much, much greater than the idle time that Chusik's causing him. And he's not picking up any bills.
And still, they're only trading 2 Reuters for 6 Hussars. That's basically 1,000 resources lost for Conqueror. Yep. And those Hussars can be very valuable in age 3 if you're able to get the veteran upgrade for them early.
Certainly, that was a good trade for Chusik. I don't think it was quite enough to even up the game because he still is substantially behind in military population, and Conqueror999 did ship wood, which, as you pointed out, is probably a superior shipment in this situation. So I'm not really sure what Chusik is going to do from here.
We're going to see the first barracks come out from Conqueror999 as well. Probably going to translate that wood. Not sure what he'll put it into. I wouldn't expect a town center. It's just not something very common with Dutch and not very useful. But we're going to see a second stable. So we're going to have 2 stables, 1 barracks, while Chusik, on the other hand, is sitting with 1 barracks, 1 stable.
Yeah, and he has to have either bills. Okay, now he did ship 1,000 wood. I think that's nice. But are you? I assume you went ooh because you just noticed that Dictator is on his way up to the industrial age, and Chusik is in absolutely no position to punish that.
Yeah, his units are sitting cleanly in his base. I don't know what he's waiting for. I'd like to see him, you know, his explorer is dead. He needs to be at least poking out, prodding. He knows he should have a unit advantage because he aged up to age 3 earlier. There's no reason for him to be in his base.
Yeah.
He needs to be scouting at the very least with just a single unit, a single skirmisher, a single Reuter, something. But, you know, having no information.
Although
Conqueror is able to hit up to the age 3 before the units have even left Chusik's base.
I do think that if he had checked Conqueror's deck, he would have seen he would have seen 14 skirmishers in age 4, which is not something that you normally see, and then 1,000 food in age 3, which is also not kind of a regular card. And I think that if he had seen those cards, he might have had an inkling of what Dictator was up to. And it's just going to be very, very hard for Chusik to deal with heavy cannons, I think, at this point. And I'm not
only having 1 stable, there's not much Chusik has in the way of being able to produce Hussars, which are the unit he needs to counter heavy cannons. But we're going to see the Art Foundry come out.
I think that's the correct decision to add. I believe it, if I'm correct, is it 3 calls to one-shot a heavy cannon?
It'll be 3 culverins, but keep in mind that Artillery Foundry costs him 300 wood, and 3 culverins would cost him 1,200 coin and 300 wood.
So that's basically a 2,000 resource investment to try to deal with a 16,000 resource investment from Dictator, because that's approximately what an age 4 shipment is worth. And then after that, assuming that Dictator doesn't add in any more cannons, those falconets are just going to be a little bit useless. And I assume if we go to units in queue right now that we will see, yep, we see 2 culverins in queue. And I assume that he'll add a 3rd one here, because I assume that he also knows that it takes 3 culverins. And there was a cheer from Eddie Holland, so thank you for that.
I mean, if we see, Chusik winning this engagement, which is going to be hard-pressed to do, you have to consider Conqueror999 already has the factory out in Age 4, and that second factory is going to come out soon, and that just puts him in such a barreling lead in terms of economy.
Yep. He's now 11 villagers up, which is obviously quite a big deal. And Chusik does have his 3 culverins out, so I think he is going to be able to deal with those heavy cannons. But I'm not sure, and it looks like if we look at his macro, it looks like he is macroing to age himself. But still, I'm not sure, just the fact that he's going to be so far down in eco. Oh, and that volley. Although he killed
one of the heavy cannons going down
and he needs to pull his hulls back. Although that other heavy cannon, oh, it's not yet at the point where we get 2 shot by a bomb. Oh, and look at those falconets. That is one way for him to kind of get back in the game. If we look at the skirm count now, it is ridiculously in favor. Well, not ridiculously in favor, but it is in favor of Chusik because of those cannons. And I think
the artillery.
I think that this is going to be that Chusik should try to push here, because in the long term he's not going to be able to win this game. Another factory coming out, and Conqueror is adding Huss, and he's just now queued up the Age 2 upgrade for them, or Age 3 upgrade. Sorry, I apologize.
I don't think that's terrible from Conqueror999, but I'd like to have seen him maybe kind of commit to just Reuters and cannons. Something he can, by having this 3-unit composition, he's not going to be able to get the Age 4 guard upgrade for all of them as soon as he'd like to. By investing in so many different unit types, it's just going to be hard to upgrade them all and get them all in time for when when you're going to take a big engagement. I'd have liked to have seen him commit to fewer units.
Yeah.
For different types of units, that is, and get the upgrade for his Reuters, and then just push out with like 3 or 5 heavy cannons and maybe some culverins of his own.
Yeah, and he is getting the Age 4 skirms, and I assume that we're going to be seeing 14 skirms as the next shipment from him, having exhausted the other 3 shipments. And if we look at Chusik does have quite a decent max coming out, although given the fact that Dictator's skirms are better, that is going to be a problem. And there is this Huss point coming from the side. Chusik was a little bit slow to react, and he is going to lose a lot of his cannons to that Huss point. And there are 4 more Huss coming in, and I think that Chusik is going to... Although, saving grace is that Dictator's heavy cannon is idle in the back. But still, I think the skirm... No, Chusik's still way ahead in the skirm count, so he is pushing back. But I do think that Chusik's gonna... He shipped 4 Hussars. I think he has to ship infantry combat. Because otherwise his skirms are just... Without that infantry combat, his skirms are just that much worse than Dictator's skirms.
While Chusik did well in that engagement, he kind of lost his calling card with those falconets. Yeah. And you can see just disparity in the economy, and also Conqueror having the guard upgrade for his skirmishers. By winning engagements alone, he's not going to be able to win the game.
Yeah,
he really needs to make a decisive finish it out as soon as possible, or just age up in the back of it and try to get up safely. But his options are limited here. He needs to make something happen very shortly, or even by just winning these engagements tit for tat, just a little bit, it's not going to be enough.
Yep, and there's 14 skirming. Dictator does have Age 4 Hussars with the infantry or cavalry tourists coming from the arsenal. And that heavy cannon's finally coming into play. And I'm just not really sure what Chusik's going to do. These units are just they're just so upgraded. He's going to lose his hulls, those Huss, and then that was his ticket to deal with the heavy cannons, which is, well, although maybe he could just brute force it down now, since it is only at 2 HP.
2 HP, but it might still be able to get off a single more blast.
Yeah,
it's still big.
Although at this point, I'm not sure. Oh, look, 4 falconets coming out. Chusik. And it is worth pointing out that the falconets, or that cannons traditionally don't do well versus skirmisher or versus dragoons, but falconets do pretty well versus Reuters, just because Reuters are so low HP. But I think Chusik's making a mistake of engaging before his falconets cave. And he is gonna have to try to deal with that. Just get one shot off on that heavy cannon. Yep, and he did deal with it. And he still does have 3 falconets alive. Although he is calling GG, I think he realizes that dictator skirmishers, he's just gonna not really be able to deal with the economic disparity and the unit disparity in terms of the relative power of their units.
Even at that point, we saw Chusik win that engagement so handily. He won that last engagement very much in his favor, but you can just take a look at the score and realize it's not enough. It's never going to be enough.
No.
And Chusik lost this match just based on his strategy.
Yep, it was just. I think it would have been wise of him to add to he either needed to poke early. Well, I think he needed to poke early in Fortress. And I think he was too worried about getting caught by unit batches popping from Dictators, TC, and Barracks and Stable, and he just pushed. Well, by the time that he realized that Conqueror was going H4, it was just too late.
And that's going to see Conqueror actually taking the lead in this series. He was down 0-1, but now he's up 2-1, and he's on match point. It's a best of 5, so only one more win is separating Conquerer999 from his final slot.
Yeah, and I do think that if it is Conqueror versus I Am Turk, I think that's going to be quite an entertaining matchup. As would Chusik versus I Am Turk. But we'll see if Chusik can kind of bring this back. It's interesting. We have not seen him play auto yet, which I think is one of his main civs, or maybe his main civ. And really, Alaska is not a great map for auto because you have no trading post. Which is really kind of what auto relies upon to get out their shipments to kind of power their economy.
And basically, Ottoman's only way to play on this map would either be like a super aggressive Jan Rush, just like the classic Jan Rush, or something very, very heavy on water.
Yeah. If you'll excuse me for just about 45 seconds, I have to run to the restroom.
Absolutely. I don't actually believe that we've spoken on Chusik's background as a player. So, while Gibson is away for right now, I'll just speak on that. But yeah, Chusik, he is a player from Switzerland, and he is coming back after a few years of inactivity. And lock in Dutch here. Gone for a few years from the community. He did a few months ago, I believe, probably around maybe late July. So he's only been playing again for a few months, but he's always been that lieutenant colonel, kind of colonel range. He used to be a Nilla player, a player back in the day. He played in the PK Clan tournament, and he made it to the round of 16. And back then, that was in 2013. I think that the scene was very, very competitive back then. So making it to the round of 16 was actually quite a feat. Like I said, always kind of hovering around that lieutenant colonel to colonel range. Rank range, I should say. Conquer also 9 floating around that. So they're about equally matched, and we definitely saw that. I think Chusik played well in the last game. He's played well this entire series, but in that last game, I think he played well. It was just some of his strategic decisions that lost him. And so while he's losing this series, he's definitely a formidable player. He plays mostly Dutch and British, and we're going to see Dutch series. Ottoman also another pick of his, but maybe saving that for the last game.
Okay, and I'm back. Sorry about that, but nature is calling.
Conquerer999 locking in India here as his counter pick.
So yeah, it looks like they've decided on civs, and I think this is going to be an interesting matchup because I think Dutch is one of the only civs that does well versus India. I think they're kind of similar in the way they like to play. They both kind of like to go greedy, end up in age 3, although India does obviously have that option to just kind of balls to the wall set boy rush, although that was nerfed a little bit on the ESOC patch.
I think both of these civs can kind of be inclined towards going towards the sea, especially on this map. Trading posts. But I'm very excited to see this one. This is a kind of a classic matchup you would expect between these two players. And on Alaska, which is not a map that we've seen a lot in the tournament so far, it being kind of towards the back end of the civilization order, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Dictator. I believe that versus the only boss, he played India on this map, and he did go British East Indiaman, or whatever it's called, first, which is the dock rickshaw. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes for that again, or if he kind of plays your more kind of standard India.
This will be game 4 of the Autumn 2018 Second Chance Semifinals match between Conquerer999 and Chusik. Winner of this match moves on to face I'm Turk in the finals. This is match point for Dictator, playing as the India in the color red, whether that's on the north or the south. I'm not quite sure yet. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. He is on the north of the map, and Chusik going to be playing Dutch in the south. Color Dutch was also Chusik's locked civilization. So India was Conquer999's counter pick, and this is kind of a classic matchup we've seen a lot throughout the tournament on a bunch of different maps. But you know, I think these are two main civilizations of both of these players, so it's going to be some high quality gameplay.
Yeah, and it's always nice with Dutch when you get that 50 coin treasure right in your base, because you just know that's 50 coin less that you have to gather to age. Honestly, I would like to see, because of that coin treasure and because of the 200 wood start, I would like to see Chusik putting up a market. Oh, and right as I say that, he puts down a market. Because you can get a market, you can get hunting dogs, and you can still age at the same time as you would normally.
There's also a 95 wood treasure that Chusik's creeping right now, and that's going to be a big pickup.
Yep.
Definitely going to expedite hunting dogs, as you say, not having to gather any wood for it.
And on the other hand, Dictator's getting this Nootka Clubman, which can, if Chusik was playing a civ that was going to be aggressive, can be just so annoying to try to deal with. But since I bet Chusik will be playing out of his base, it probably won't end up making a big deal. Except that if Dictator goes for this treasure, he'll just be able to get it that much easier because of the extra DPS from the Nootka.
So looking at the resources around the map, I think the hunts are well balanced. You know,
Yep,
both players get 2 hunts. No, you only spawn with 1 silver mine in base. That's 2,000 gold. The next the next mine that you have to go for is quite far in front of your base. You can see for both players. So this is not really a favorable situation for Dutch, where they have to, you know, go out of their base in order to get that second mine of theirs. The Civ being very coin heavy, their villagers costing coin, as well as their skirmishers being more coin heavy than food.
Although that is subsidized by the fact a little bit that they do have banks. So while you really, even if you have 5 banks, you can't solely rely on that for your gold income. Like I said, it can kind of subsidize it, so you don't have to gather quite as much gold as you would a regular civ would have to. And
absolutely,
Conqueror does have a relatively strong water deck, having both that East Indiaman and advanced docks in Age 1, 3 warships and then warship upgrades in Age 2, and then a frigate in Age 3. Well, Chusik does not have a single water card. And yeah, Nick here, Conqueror is sending the dock rickshaw first. So he is gonna be water booming a little bit and doing an in-base aggro, similar to what he did against Tabin, or I'm sorry, the only boss. So how do you think this is going to play out? Because obviously it's going to give him an eco boost, but it's also going to allow Dutch to boom kind of unhindered, because he's not going to be pressuring as early as he might be otherwise.
I'm really glad you asked, and I think scouting is going to be crucial here. So I think Chusik's walking into Conqueror999's base right now, so he's going to scout the defensive aggro, and he can probably kind of assume from that point that he's probably going water. But I think just because Chusik chose to limit himself with his deck, not having any water shipments, he needs to play it out in Age 2, or he needs to be very aggressive. I'd like to see him maybe go for an Age 2 timing push with like 13 pikemen, 8 Hus, something like that. But he needs to make a move. He can't allow Conqueror999 to take all the water uncontested.
I don't know, because I think that if he pulls a card out of Dictator's pocket and went for an FI and pushed with heavy cannons, I do think that India would struggle to deal with that, especially since I believe that Dictator's only going to be he's only going to have one dock, so it's not going to be enormously helping his boom like it would be if he was playing like Portuguese on Indochina or Indonesia and making just docks all around the map. So while it certainly is going to help his boom, I don't know if Chusik is going to have to push ASAP in order to win.
That's certainly true. He could go like a Dutch FI strategy and kind of build away from the coast. His buildings not being put towards too close towards the back, so they don't get monitored later in the game. But being able to push, like having 4 heavy cannons out on the field and then just pushing into India's base, they don't have a lot of units with which to counter that. Siege elephants actually have the same range as heavy cannons, so they kind of just go toe to toe. Elephants being India's main counter artillery unit. So if he were to do that, he could definitely make a stand and push out and just give Dictator no space on the map with which to, hold his land presence. That's certainly another way that this matchup could go. But we're going to see soon here, or actually we won't see soon here, really what Chusik is up to. He's pretty much always going to go for 700 wood 1 bank and get those banks up as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think he's just going a very, very heavy eco play. Because I think that he probably has until until Dictator gets out monitors. Once he gets out monitors, I don't think he really has that much of a chance. But up until the water player gets out monitors, I think that Dutch can kind of go toe to toe with a single dock boom.
Just a little reminder to update the score.
Yep,
I think it's
I got it about a minute ago.
All right, perfect.
But yeah, we'll see, because I do think that Chusik's gonna. Yeah, he's got 5 banks up. 5 banks. It will be about 620. So that is, if we look at the recalculated economic population, that does put him in a significant lead. But that is the most banks that he can make without sending a shipment. So we will see Dictator slowly kind of crawling back into the economic lead. And look at this. I'm not exactly sure how the physics of how that dock got built, but it did get built. So. That's going to expedite Dictator's fish boom just a little bit.
That is positively scenic. That is a beautiful place for a dock, I must say, just from an aesthetics point of view. But yeah, we see the 600 wood coming out for Chusik. I don't think he's actually going to convert that into an H2 pressure like I kind of had hoped for. I'm probably just going to go up to H3, and maybe he's even going for an industrial build order like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, okay, it looks like he is dropping a stable, so he's probably going to go for an age 3 timing push if I had to guess. I would like to see him go, he's building 2 Reuters. I'd almost like to see him go Reuter cannon, because I think that would be something that India would kind of struggle to deal with, especially if he gets out a big enough Reuter mass that he can kind of snipe the siege elephants.
Yeah, it definitely could be the case that he's going for an H3 timing push, but I don't think just building the stables precludes him from doing an industrial build order. It's certainly still viable, just building that infrastructure so that it's available while you're in transition. But we're actually see. Oh, look at that coin count for Chusik. Yeah, it definitely seems like he's distributing for Reuters.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see 1,000 wood, and I'd like to see him at an artillery foundry. Then I'd like to see 1,000 coin and see him just get out like 5 falconets. And then I'd like to see either cav combat or 9 Reuters. And well, I'd like to see him push as soon as the cannons come out. Because like you mentioned at the start of this game, the later the game goes, the more it's probably going to be favoring the water player. We've already seen the water player is already up in economic population, and there's not really much room for Dutch to be able to catch up at this point. And we are gonna see India clicking up here in just a second.
And that'll see him up to age 3, with which he has the option to upgrade his Gurkhas, his Zambaraks, and those would be his main counter units to a sort of Reuter push from Chusik. You see the 9 Reuter shipment popping out first.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of that. Because you need something to go with these Reuters. You're probably not gonna win the game just going pure Reuter. You have no siege potential. You have no way to deal with skirms. Even Uramis, if they pop right on those Reuters, can be quite a big deal. But it looks like he's going to poke a little bit. He will see that Dictator, and he will get 1 villager, although in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal.
Yeah, he's going to need to keep up the pressure, continue to harass Dictator's small military at the moment, pick off some more villages if he wants to be able to really make something of this. You know, I do like his decision to go full Reuter and kind of pressure. There's not a lot India can do to counter this. Even Gurkhas, once the Reuters get in close combat, they don't do very well. The Gurkhas, that is.
Yeah.
So I do like this push up from Chusik, and the 9 Reuters keeping his units mobile for the time being.
And
I think, like you said, those 3...
Go ahead.
Like you pointed out, those 3 settlers coming forward. I think we might even see maybe a forward artillery foundry. You know, I don't know how accurate that might be, but that might be what we see with the 1,000 coiner or 1,000 wood shipments coming as Chusik's second Fortress Age shipment.
And it's I think it's also important to point out that this pressure has not only idled Dictator an enormous amount, but it slowed him in aging tremendously. I mean, I think just about every player who's played native civs has been in this position where you have to pull all your builds off of the age 3 wonder, and then it just seems it goes so slow.
Yeah.
Like it takes like 1 minute and 40 seconds to go. And yeah, you were correct. We are seeing an artillery foundry, so I really like this. I think falconets would be huge. I think petards would be quite cool. Although a little bit more trolly and probably not as good. But it is going to be interesting to see what he does, because he's got 1,000 wood banked now. I also, with that 1,000 wood, I would not mind seeing him taking a native trading post, dropping a dock, and then kind of forcing Dictator to ship a frigate.
It is quite close to the coast, but you know, cannons being able to pop out of this, those would fare quite well against some warships. At least Culverins would. Falconets might be at risk to get sniped by those frigates. But I think a frigate might be enraged, at least have taken down these houses, maybe even that artillery foundry. But nonetheless, that's not going to be coming out shortly, I would expect. Instead, Conquerer999, he has the barracks, and he's just now getting the veteran upgrade for the Gurkhas. Got a decent batch of them out now with a Gurkha shipment.
And yeah,
but it's not really...
Dictator just sent a shipment, and Chusik does have right now 2 falconets. It's probably going to be 4 falconets in queue. So if Dictator's not shipping the siege elephants, he's going to have a very, very hard time dealing with these 4 falconets, or potentially even 5, which are about to pop. So as soon as he sees 5, I'd like to see him cancel whatever shipment he is sending and ship the siege elephants, because I don't know how. He was shipping them.
There it is.
They're gonna get sniped.
Sniped.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not sure at this point how he's going to deal with these remaining cannons. Because there are just 4 cannons remaining, and Chusik is just going to be able to slow push the aggro and just slow push everything that Dictator has. And unless he drops a castle and gets more siege elephants out, I don't know what he's going to do. He's already used his ceasefire, so it's not going to be ready for another few minutes. So there's not going to be any chance of using the ceasefire to have some cheeky snare. And yeah, there goes the aggro. Auto-consulate Minutemen coming out, and I think that's just kind of desperation because they're already dead without doing any damage. And Chusik's probably got more cannons. He should be queuing up more cannons because he's got the resources for it. And now he's just going to slow push on that town center, and honestly, I don't really see a way back into this game for Conqueror.
We see more Voiders coming out from Chusik. I wouldn't even mind looking at his resource distribution. Maybe Chusik mixing in a bit of Hussars, that would definitely seal the deal. You know, basically, one of Conquerer999's only relevant shipments left is like the 7 Yarumi. Those do well against the Reuters. They wouldn't really help him out against the Falconets, but none of his other shipments are really going to help him out versus the Falconets. And those Hussars would just seal the deal.
He's desperately trying to focus down a cannon. Oh, and there's going to be a villager full, but Chusik's just going to block with Reuters, and it's just not going to do anything. I really doubt the villagers are going to connect. And yeah, there is a 4. Although Chusik needs to move his cannons. Oh, and there is Urami, but there's the maybe he will hold here. I think he is going to hold here. But if we look at the economic unit population now, it has almost evened up, and Chusik has got the age 3 Hussar upgrade, so we will definitely see him adding in Hussars. I'd also like to see more cannons come out.
Chusik's working on taking down all the Urimi right now, and after that I think he's going to focus fire his Hussars on the Zambaraks. But he has another 5 Hussars. Actually, no more Hussars. It's just these 5 Hussars on the way. Actually, wow. There's not going to be much Chusik can do to just contest this Gurkha Zambarak mass of Dictator.
I think Chusik needs more cannons. I mean, I said that there was no way that Conqueror would be able to deal with those 5 cannons, and sure enough, he did. And now I think if Chusik just goes cannons again, once again, Dictator's going to have a very, very hard time trying to deal with those.
Yeah, Conqueror, you know, he sacked 10 villagers in that fight in order to kill those cannons, but I think it was worth it considering his economy even with all these boats.
Ooh, and
yeah, 100%.
Chusik going for Swiss pikemen, and then he does have 10 Hussars in queue, but really instead of those Swiss pikemen, he could have just made cannons. And now Dictator's expanding to another TC on the coast, and I think that at this point Chusik just might have missed his window. He might be able to make, if he can make something happen with these Swiss pikemen, maybe. But if Conqueror gets this town center up and cleans up this current army that Chusik has, I think it's going to be very, very hard for Chusik to get back in the game.
This is a really good position for Chusik. It's kind of, you know, Dictator's doing a good job of getting those units, melee units caught in the trees, but still losing so much. A lot of the Gurkha mass being taken down.
Yep, a lot of the
Swiss pikes still alive. They're going to do a good job on these Zambaraks if they can get close.
But still, I mean, I'm just imagining instead of Swiss pikemen, if Chusik had just made cannons. And I think that even though those Swiss pikes did help him quite a bit and are kind of, may have kept him in the game a little bit, I just think that cannons would have done so much better. And it is important, he did deny this TC that was going down here. And if we look at the stats, yeah, and that he almost got that down. If we look at the unit stats, the Reuters they've got the same attack as the Zams do, but they've got 50 more HP. So I think they are a decent amount better than the Zambaraks. And so these trades, these Zambarak trades, are pretty good for Chusik. Although he is idling them back there. And please, Chusik, he's floating 2,000 gold. He could just easily trade a few of that gold for wood and then just pump out more cannons. I'm not really.
Cannons or something.
I'm not really.
I think he's just forgotten about the artillery foundry.
I guess.
But yeah, like if he were able to put those resources, repair that artillery foundry, you know, he might have found a way back into this game.
Yeah.
He waits, and the decision to go skirmishers here, it seems, might not be the right play in my opinion, and it might even lose him the game.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, just looking at his macro cannons would just, I mean, we already saw what Dictator had to do in order to deal with those last 4 cannons. He lost about 10 villagers and a shipment and a lot of units just to hold that. And I don't know if he'd be able to hold cannons again.
Yeah, so with the artillery foundry going down to the frigate as well as that house, you know, he's not even going to be able to produce any cannons. Had he had cannons out earlier, he might have been able to push that frigate back and save the artillery foundry. But now Conqueror has complete control over the sea as well. He's moving up to the industrial age.
And that is a big problem. Because right now, Dutch's units do fine against the skirms. They've got similar stats to the Gurkha. And the Reuters are a little bit better even than the Zams. But once he gets those H4, once he starts pumping out Urami, I'm not sure what Chusik is going to be able to do to deal with it. And once again, I'm going to say cannons. Cannons do quite well against Urami. Beating a dead horse here, but I do think that cannons are his way back into this game.
So no guard upgrades for Conquer out yet, using that ceasefire ability, but Chusik is doing a nice job of closing the distance. Going back now, oh, yep, and that's going to be to counter those 2 Mahouts that are coming from the backside.
And it is worth noting too that Chusik now has infantry combat. So at this current time, his skirms are significantly better than the Gurkhas. I mean, I think he realizes that this is his time. This is where he needs to make something happen. Because the longer this game gets dragged out, the harder it's going to be for him to deal with the Indians. I mean, if we look at the military population, he is significantly ahead in military population. Although those 9 Uramis, unless Chusik's got more Hus coming in, he's going to have a very hard time dealing with those Uramis. And I think those Uramis could even spell just the end of the game.
I think so as well. You know, I thought Chusik was in a really good spot there, but the Urumi shipment might just close it out for Conqueror here. You know, now he's got honored Zambaraks, not still disciplined Gurkhas, but most of them died anyway, so it's not a big deal. Even using some of the, oh my god, the villagers to block the pathing of the skirmishes.
Yeah, and I think I have a hard time. And there's just 10 Hus idling right there. That could have been used to help deal with the Uramis. And now at this point that Conqueror is stabilized in H4. He's got the H4 Zambarak upgrade. He's probably going to queue up the Gurkha upgrade momentarily. Yep, he just queued it up. Yeah, and Chusik calling the GG. And so that was quite a close series. Chusik winning the first game, and then Dictator winning the next 3, although they were all relatively close games there.
Especially like that last one. You know, it was so back and forth. We were calling it for Chusik early in the fortress with that push with 5 Falconets. It looked like dire straits for Conqueror, but he was able to bring it back with that 7 Urumi pop, as well as sacking 10 villagers. That, you know, is still back and forth. Chusik just not being able to close it out, despite killing like 25 villagers. If you look at the graphs of Conqueror, it just wasn't enough. He wasn't able to put it in at the right time, and Conqueror was still able to stay afloat, push out the win in Age 4, and that'll see him moving on to the finals of the Second Chance tournament, where he's going to be facing I Am Turk.
Yep. And I imagine they'll probably, if I had to guess, they'll probably schedule that tournament for the next weekend. Um, so that'll certainly be an interesting matchup. I think is it best of 7 or is it
It'll
still
be
a
a
best
best
of
of
5?
Yep, it'll be a best of 7 series.
Best of 7, and I think these players are going to be very, very evenly matched. Um, so it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens in that series.
Absolutely. And I want to say congratulations to Conqueror. He's getting his final slot in the Second Chance tournament. I believe this is the first time he's been able to participate in one, clearly showing he is a skilled player. But you have to give some big ups to Chusik as well. I think he played very well this series. There were some mistakes in game 2, but I think besides that, he really showed some stuff. And in this game 4 as well, excuse me, I think he played really, really well with his decision making in early Fortress. It was just kind of towards mid Fortress age to late, where he kind of just missed his opportunity and wasn't able to seal it. But I think he played so well even still.
Yep, it was definitely well played. It was a very close series between two players who are very, very close in skill. I think we saw it demonstrated. Chusik not even playing his main civ, Ottoman, and still managing to make it a very, very close and entertaining series. So thank you to the players. Congratulations to Conqueror for moving on. And I believe that is the end of today's activities.